Why did you think like the clothing thing would be a good match for barber? Like what was going on in your head when you're like, I'm gonna do a barber and suits? Like how did that come about?
Yeah. So, for us, it was about finding an experience or creating an experience. That's the bottom line, right? So it was, there's this idea that I want to open a barber shop. I really love this industry. But if I add anything to it, I don't want it to feel like we're just peddling product, right? Mm-hmm. So how do I create an experience that really parallels the barber experience from a retail standpoint? And I thought, what better way than to create a tailored experience from clothing to men's grooming? So having the utility of being able to do made to measure means that I can make sure our clothing fits you specifically the way it needs to, just like I would tailor a haircut to your head shape and all of that. So mm-hmm. it was really about finding a way to add to the experience and not just have a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. Then you'll find a lot of barbershops will try and increase their retail revenue by just having almost like a merch store in the front. Yeah. It's like they're a band.
I've definitely seen that.
Yeah. So, and that's fun. It's great. The community can support it, and it's a huge marketing tool. I mean, you're going to the gym and you see a bunch of guys wearing shirts from all sorts of different stores and brands and whatever. But for us, I wanted it to really be a tailored experience. And you mentioned suits. It's funny because suits was a selling jackets to trousers was a big foundation of what we did, because in the made to measure space, that's all of our manufacturers, that was what their bread and butter was. Mm-hmm. But what we've done is we've actually done a bunch of R&D to be able to not just provide suits, but we provide everything from, casual wear, some more kind of fun bohemian styles, Americana styles, all the way to, your Napoli inspired jacketing. So it's fun being able to be a full, well-rounded clothing brand and still be able to provide it made to measure.
That's awesome. So how do you also, I'm trying to think, how do you also sell clothes? I remember thinking, we were talking about this, the first haircut. Yeah. And I was like, is he going to try to sell me a jacket? Is he going to be having a razor to my neck and be like, dude, you should buy a jacket? What's the process? Are you, I don't know if you're trying to sell, a good salesman, you never know that it's happening.
Yeah, no.
But what's that process like? So
I think the best way to describe that would be how I onboard barbers and how I represent that experience to the barbers. Because you can imagine the barbers are having a similar conversation with me where they're going, so do you want me to sell clothes? Yeah. So because of that, let me kind of explain that. What I tell them is I want everyone to understand what Sorek is, right? I want everyone to know what we do, but that doesn't mean saying, oh man, you should really try on this shirt, or oh, you would look great in that. You can, that's a part of it, but it's really being able to describe who we are. And what that is, somebody's like, wow, so you guys sell clothes. Well, what we explain to them is, so we're obviously a barbershop, but we're also a menswear brand. And we provide ready-to-wear collections throughout the year, along with Sorek Custom, where you can get select styles made to measure. That's what we do. So that opens the door for the customer to understand who we are, what we do, what Sorek is about. And as they're checking out, there's a whole store for them to look through. For us, another focus was making sure the experience is holistic from a physical standpoint. So when you're in the store, you can tell it's all encompassing, right? It's not a barbershop and then you walk over here and there's a clothing store. It's very much all together.
Yeah. So okay, so let's do a little role play here. So you're cutting my hair, and I'm like, you explain the whole Sorek thing. Yeah. I'm just like, oh, what's with the clothes? You're just talking about that.
Yeah.
And then what happens is the customer usually like, well, what do you think about this?
The customer's got a cape on them. So there's not a lot of clothing conversations at that point. From there, my brother owns the business with me, Jared. Mm-hmm. He handles the majority of our clothing. So for me, it's, whenever we're done, I'll have Jared show you around. There's a lot of really sick products. I think you'll love them. It's really the TO, the turnover is the most crucial part of that conversion. It's making sure that that handover is smooth. You get the customer excited, but it's for a conversation for a later time. You know what I mean? It's not, we're not going to be talking about your size. But, you know, I've had that happen where I'm like, oh, they're like, I love that shirt. Oh, what size are you? A medium. Hey, Jared, can you grab a couple mediums, you know, in the different colors? So
like mid haircut, and they're like,
yeah. And that's also because, I mean, owning the business and operating right now, it's a blast, but it also makes me so much more comfortable to have those conversations because I understand all of it really well. But I don't expect, you know, any of our barbers to have that conversation.
Well, I've never because I overhear the other barbers' conversation. I don't think I've ever heard once them talk about like clothing. I've seen a lot of haircuts that don't even broach the subject whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I guess you get someone back like 10 times or more on average.
And that's where that intimate relationship, that community you build is so fun for the retail experience because we're able to you know, slowly tailor. And you talk about wanting a case study with a business. We've got the best case study in the world for men. We have them coming in all day long, looking at clothing. I love that. I don't like that. I kind of like that all day long. So for me, it goes, as a retail brand, you're thinking, well, they're answering all of my questions for me. Whereas with e-commerce, it's a lot of what are my returns? What am I getting here? What am I getting there?
You know what's really interesting about this? In my world, we generally don't know who the customer is because they don't live in the same country. We don't see their face. We don't see anything, right? We just, we get their money and maybe a name or something. Yeah. And the funny thing is you intimately know your target customer.
Very much so.
Yeah, because you talk to them for 30 minutes, you know, every 2 weeks or something like that.
I know their wives, their girlfriends, their
yeah, that's amazing. This is the total opposite in our world. We have to like go out and figure out we're like, who is buying this stuff?
So for you guys, it's very much we're dealing with the chicken before the egg conversation, right? And I think there's value in both. For you guys, you understand, you know, a distribution model, all these different things that for me are kind of next steps, where getting the retail brand available in every state, getting it, all this sort of stuff. Whereas from an e-commerce standpoint, that's first. It's like, how do I get this to people? You know, how do I get it to the customer? Whereas for us, it's one store in one city. How do we take care of these people better than anyone else? And you know who those people are. You know,
I just start cutting my customers' hair or something like that. Just get to know them.
Yeah.
So what's like a rough revenue split between like clothing and barber services? Like I was sitting in your chair one day and I was like, I bet you make way more money on barbering. And you were like, no, it's like the other way around.
Yeah, very much so. I'd say right now, and bearing in mind, you know, August 4th, today's what, the 7th? Mm-hmm. So 3 days ago was our 1 year.
And you business. Kind of the pandemic, all that kind of stuff happened.
So 1 year in business, it's how do I explain? I'd say we've got a pretty close to 50-50 split. Mm-hmm. But that's 1 year in business with the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And now the city's finally opening up. The retail, we're seeing a very strong upward trend. Just as with barbering, but it's very easy for the retail side of our business to just start skyrocketing because it's so much more revenue per customer.
Well, I mean, that was one of the things I thought. I was just like, your brand could scale. Yeah. Your barbershop can scale to a certain degree. Yeah. But there are definite limits to the sky.
Way
on that one.
Bigger. And that's another really important differentiator to what I see the barber, I'll call it the barber experience. Mm-hmm. I think the barber experience is a part of our brand, not what we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't see barbering in, 10 years from now. I think it's going to be a part of an experience for brands. It's a great career. You can make amazing money as a barber, but in terms of just a barber shop, it's so low margin, and your real estate in this town gets so much more expensive that it just makes sense making it a part of something. So for us, barbering is a way for us to further service our customers.
That's awesome. One of our other buddies, Eric Bandholz, who runs a beard brand out of Austin. Yeah.
Great
they
guy.
made a barbershop too, which he was just like, and he was talking about it years ago because they wanted to record videos of haircuts.
Yeah.
And he was just like, I don't know if we'll make money with this barbershop, but we'll use it as a studio.
Exactly.
So it's kind of funny. So the barbers make money, of course.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they actually even turn a profit on that. They might turn some profit, but then compared to what they do with the business brand, it pales in comparison.
And I'm speaking a lot of this from the perspective of Texas as well, which is our market in terms of barbering is, I'd say, middle price point. You go to LA, you go to New York, that's where you're dealing with, here, I'd say $40 to $50 is premium. In LA, it's like 90. So there's growth here that could change a lot of our conversation, right? There's a lot of space with demographics changing, the city becoming more affluent, all those things. I think as the city grows, we could be having a very different conversation. I could be telling you, well, wow, shit, this is great.
Well, that stretch of E6 that you're on.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lived in Austin for 20 years, and you didn't step foot in this part of town.
No, not at all. Not at all.
It was bad.
Exactly.
And now, like, buying a house here, walking around at night, you're just like, wow, what a
Now we're doing
change.
a podcast.
Yeah. So funny. That's very true. Yeah.